It's time for the Money Puzzle Podcast. With good conversations and realistic solutions to the money puzzles we all face every day. I'm your host, financial advisor, chartered financial consultant, and president of Edgen Insurance and Financial, Robert Edgen. Now let's get this show started. Hi there, hello, and welcome to the Money Puzzle Podcast. I am Robert Edgen, and I'll be your guide for the ride for the next few minutes. Each week, we look at a different piece of the money puzzle and practical ways to solve it so you can have the financial confidence you deserve and the future that you dream of. Today, this is episode number 33, and we are kicking off a 5-part series on the best and most important financial moves to make for each decade of your life. What do you do in your 20s and your 30s, your 40s, 50s, and 60s in order to get all of your money puzzle pieces together to form a financially successful life? That's what we're talking about. And today we're starting with your 20s. I can't wait to get into that topic. I've got a lot of great information to get into. But before I do a lot of reading and research, and I come across different financial news headlines that catch my eye. So I thought we would take a minute to look at some news. Today's news comes to us from UPI.com, and the headline reads, "Family's Itchy Hands Leads to $50,000 Lottery Jackpot." That's pretty exciting. This is from October 4th. It says, a Maryland woman said her superstitions paid off when 3 of her daughters had itchy hands on the same day, leading her to buy one of them a scratch-off lottery ticket worth $50,000. The Baltimore woman, identified only as Lucy, told Maryland lottery officials that 3 of her adult daughters all had itchy hands. So one of her daughters gave her some cash to go pick up a scratch-off ticket, which they paid $5 for, and they won $50,000 during the scratch-off. The winner had Lucy protect the ticket until they could make plans to visit lottery headquarters. So it says here that mom hid the ticket under her pillow. Perfect place to hide $50,000 lottery ticket because nobody messes with mom, according to the article. The winner said she plans to use some of the money to send Lucy and her husband on a cruise. The rest will go into savings for Lucy's 8 grandchildren. So first off, congratulations to Lucy and her daughters with the itchy hands. I have to say, as a parent, if 3 of my kids all had itchy hands on the same day, the first thing I would probably want to find out is, why do you have itchy hands? Is there something in the house that's causing a rash? Do we have something that we are all being infected by? Do I need to take you to the doctor and get you some ointment? But hey, superstitions, I guess, occasionally pay off. Hopefully this is not how they do their other savings and investing, not how they pick their stocks based on superstitions and whether or not somebody wakes up on the right side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed. I don't know. All I know is it's exciting that they won $50,000. Hopefully they're not using superstitions for all of their other financial decisions. But congratulations to those ladies out in Maryland. If you'd like to read the rest of that story, you can check it out. The link is in the show notes right below the video. If you're on this on YouTube, it's right on the website, or it's in the show notes of the podcast episode. That's it for today's news. Let's go ahead and get into the hot topic of the day. All right, so we're kicking off this 5-part series, and we're focusing on the most important financial moves to make during each decade of your life. Today, we're talking about your 20s. Now, we're not going to talk about should you go to college versus not go to college. It's not married versus single. We're not even talking about what kind of job you should get. No, we're focusing on the financial aspects of your 20 and what money moves you should make to kick off a good, financially successful adulthood. This is the time that you set the tone for the rest of your adult life. Your 20s and making the right decisions and the good financial moves will get you started down the right path. It's a great time to be talking about these things and having this conversation because when it comes to saving and investing, time is your best friend. And when you are in your 20s, you have a lot of time to go. So Are you taking enough risks with your investments? Are you instilling good habits? Those are the things that we're going to go through today. We're going to count down the 5 most important things, but we're going to end with the 2 biggest financial moves that you should make in your 20s in order to adult correctly and financially successfully. So here we go. Starting off with number 5, get life insurance, specifically a 10-year term life insurance policy. Now, I know we've talked about life insurance before on the show many times. During all of September, we were talking about it because September is Life Insurance Awareness Month all throughout the United States. But why the heck would someone in their 20s need life insurance? Well, there's a couple of really good reasons to get a small life insurance policy when you are young and in your 20s. For one, if you went to college, you probably racked up some debts that might need to be taken care of if something were to happen to you. So having a small life insurance policy will cover any debts, and it will also pay for your funeral costs and final expenses if something were to happen to you. So it's just the right thing to do. Your parents probably raised you and supported you and paid for things while you were growing up. If something were to happen to you and you don't make it home, the last thing that you should do is stick them with funeral costs. But that's really only one reason, and quite frankly, that's not the real reason that I think getting a 10-year term life insurance is important when you're 20s. In your 20s, excuse me. The real reason is that it helps prepare you for the rest of your adult life by getting you ahead of the life insurance curve and locking in your best possible life insurance rates that you're probably going to get for the rest of your life. So what do I mean by that? Well, when do you probably need life insurance? When does it have the best chances of paying out? Probably when you're in your 70s or your 80s, quite a long time away from when you are in your 20s. But when are you probably the healthiest that you will ever be in your entire adult life? Well, probably in your 20s, not your 70s and your 80s. You see, buying life insurance is like buying a parachute. You have to buy it before you jump out of the plane. You have to buy it before you need it. Once you jump out of the plane, it's too late to try and buy a parachute, no matter how much money you're willing to spend. The same is true with life insurance. Once you find out that you're sick or you have a medical problem, or you start some kind of dangerous job or pick up some dangerous hobby, it becomes too late to buy life insurance because no one's going to offer it to you or sell it to you, or it becomes so expensive that you're not going to buy it. You see, with life insurance, the chances of you dying in your 20s is like less than 1 in 1,000. So you're definitely buying it before you need it, and that allows you to get the best underwriting rating and therefore the best life insurance rates locked in. And if you're smart, you can keep those best possible rates throughout your entire life, even though you're only getting a 10-year life insurance policy. Why? How does that work? Well, most life insurance policies have what is called a conversion privilege. That allows you to convert your term policy, that 10-year policy, into something that lasts longer any time before the end of the 10-year term. What makes it so powerful is that you get to keep your underwriting rating based on the age you were and the classification that you got when you originally got the policy, regardless of your new age, your new health, any new occupation or hobbies or anything that's going on in your life that might prevent you from getting good life insurance rates. There's typically no underwriting when you convert a policy. It's a no questions asked opportunity to lock in your life insurance for longer at your healthiest rate classification. This is going to save you hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars over the course of your lifetime if you can keep that rating and then convert it to something longer when you're in your 30s and then convert it again later on in life. So I would suggest that everyone in their 20s gets a 10-year term life policy for $250,000. Now, why $250,000? Because that's where the best rate classifications usually kick in with most companies. There are what are called bands when it comes to life insurance, and band ratings. And the higher the coverage goes, the cheaper the cost gets per $1,000 of insurance. So I actually checked, and for a 24-year-old guy, it would cost about $11 a month for $250,000 of 10-year term life insurance. For a 24-year-old woman, it would be about $10 a month. It's almost free. It's so stinking cheap. And even if you don't need $250,000 today, that gives you some flexibility and the opportunity to grow into it as you get better jobs and you earn more money and you start a family and you start having kids and do all of these things. You're just getting ahead of that life insurance curve. All right, so that's number 5. Number 4, start investing. I love meeting with people in their 20s who want to start investing for the future, because when it comes to investing for the future, time is your best friend. So if you're starting to save and invest in your 20s, time is going to be very, very good to you and your investments. Investing while you are young gives you a humongous advantage over people who wait until they're in their 30s or 40s or later. Albert Einstein says, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world, and I could not agree more. Compound interest is your money making money on your money, and then the money that earns also making money on your money too. It's like your money putting in overtime hours and working extra hard for you. If you go back and you listen to episode 2 of the Money Puzzle podcast, so about 30 episodes ago, we talked about time in the markets versus timing the markets. So we've got some really great examples of how saving for 10 years, if you were to save from 25 to 35 and then never save again, versus saving that same amount from 35 to 65, you actually have more in your account at 65 if you only invested for 10 years from 25 to 35. There's some other really great examples in there, but here's the bottom line. Here's what you need to do before you get to the end of your 20s. Learn to save 10% of what you make for your future, and make sure that you are saving 10% of what you make before you get to the end of your 20s. Now, you don't have to do it all at once. You can start with 2% and then next year go to 4 and then 6 and then 8 and then 10. You can move it up gradually over time, but make sure that by the time you get to the end of your 20s, your goal is to get that amount up to 10% of what you are earning. So where or how should you save it? Well, you might want to break it into a few categories: long-term savings and short-term savings. First, let's talk about the long-term. This is for retirement. This is for later on in life. The first place to check and look to invest is where you work. Find out if they offer any kind of matching contributions through a 401k or a 403b, different kinds based on what kind of job you have. But a retirement account through work that offers a match is a great place to start, because you should always try and take advantage of free money that your employer might be willing to give to you through an employer match in a company retirement plan. Now, not all companies offer a retirement plan and not all companies match, but if you work somewhere that has a 401k and they're telling you, look, if you put 5% into your 401k, we will also put 5% into your 401k. You are literally doubling your money the minute you put your money in, because they're going to match it and put that much money in as well. So even if the investments don't do that great, you've doubled your money as soon as you put it in there. I love free money. I hope that you love free money too, or at least grow to love it if you don't already. But that's a great place to start. Now, if your employer doesn't offer a match, then think about a Roth IRA. I love Roth IRAs because they grow with no tax and they come out with no tax as long as you follow a few simple IRS rules. But here's the way it works. The longer you have to go before you retire, the more important it is to have your money growing tax-free and coming out tax-free. And a great place to do that, maybe one of the best, is through a Roth IRA. Now, if your employer offers a match, you should do that first because free money is free money. But if they don't, then a Roth IRA is the place to start. Or if you're putting in so much that it goes above your employer match, then consider a Roth IRA so you could have some tax-free money when it comes time to retire. That's for your longer term savings and investing. But your 20s is also a great time to start saving for some short-term goals too, like getting married or buying a house. If you've got money being saved for those things, it makes it way easier to actually do those things a few years down the road when the time is right. Housing prices here in Colorado Springs, where I'm recording, are pretty darn crazy. Our average house price is something like $375,000, so you might need $15,000 or $20,000 or $25,000 down to purchase a house. Sure, you could do it with $0 down, but that's really not the right way to buy a house. You should be putting some money down when you buy a house. So during your 20s, consider splitting your savings 50-50 between short-term goals and long-term goals, and set yourself up to enter your 30s way ahead of pretty much everyone you know, because you will have been saving and are saving 10% of what you earn. All right. Number 3, start an emergency fund. This is something else that we've talked about in the past, but an emergency fund will protect the rest of your money when bad stuff happens. So before you reach the end of your 20s, you need to get an emergency fund equal to 3 months of your take-home pay set aside in the bank and ready and waiting for bad stuff to happen. Now, the older you get, the more emergencies you tend to have, and the more they cost. Now, technically, you've probably always had a lot of emergencies in your life, and they were probably expensive, but chances are before you were in your 20s and on your own, adulting and doing things that you're supposed to be doing, your parents were probably helping to pay for those emergencies for you. Well, once you're out on your own, it's time to get prepared and be ready, because you know what? Crap happens. Cars break down. Houses have problems. Fillings fall out. Your wife's dog needs a knee replacement surgery. Emergencies can get to be very expensive. So it's great to get a handle on your emergency fund sooner rather than later. Because what happens if your car breaks down and you don't have the money set aside and ready to fix it? You might have to take away money from investing. You may have to go get into debt. It puts you behind the 8 ball in a lot of areas and places that you just don't want to be. So I recommend 3 months of your take-home pay. So take 1 month of your pay stubs, multiply it by 3, and voila, now you know how much you need to have. Well, how much should you set aside each month? Well, figure out how many months you have left before you turn 30, and then take the amount of money that you need to have saved in your emergency fund, divide it by the number of months that you have left before you turn 30, and voila, that's the amount that you should be putting aside into a savings account every month, or if you get paid twice a month, twice a month. That's it. If you need $8,000 as an example, and you've got 60 months left, then you need to be saving $133.33 a month in order to get to that $8,000. If you get paid twice a month, take the $133 divide it in half. Now what's that, about $67 per month? And then that will get you to that emergency fund that you should be at by the time you reach age 30. And that will set you up to be prepared and protected from bad things happening that cause a financial burden to you later on in life. Number 2, let's talk about debt. Your 20s are a great time to figure out what kind of relationship you want to have with debt. My advice, as little of a relationship as possible. Now, we've talked about debt before, and I personally think there are both good and bad types of debt. Some debt can be leveraged to put you into a better long-term financial position, like paying for an education at college or buying a house versus renting, as a couple of examples. But it's important to come to the realization that the more of your money that has to be spent on servicing your debts, the less money you will have left to do the things that you want to do and the less money you'll have to put to work for you and your future. For the most part, debt makes your bank and credit card companies rich, not you. So when it comes to bad debts like credit cards and student loans and car loans, the sooner you can kick it to the curb, the better off you are. When you're in your 20s, before you buy a big fancy new car or a new home, you need to get your credit cards and your student loans paid off. Once you have a clean slate with your debt, then you want to do what you can to stay as close to debt-free as possible. Even saying those words sounds good. Debt-free. Free is good. Now, there's a few different ways that you can tackle debt. And we've talked about some debt issues in the past, and we're about to do some episodes on really two different ways to tackle debt. We're going to be talking about both because one is more mathematically efficient, the other one is more emotionally driven, but some people are more mathematical and some people are more emotional, but both will help you tackle debt. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast because you're not going to want to miss those episodes on how to tackle and conquer debt. But your goal for your 20s should be to leave the decade with no student loans and no debt other than maybe your car and a mortgage if you've already bought a house. Debt is bad. Being debt-free is good. There's no better time to get that in check than when you're young, before you have a whole lot of burdens and debt weighing you down. So make sure you get that under control. Okay, we've talked about number 5, 4, 3, and 2. The number one thing to do, the best financial move that you can make when you're in your 20s, is to set up a budget. Oh my gosh, that's so boring. Robert's talked about budgets in the past. I don't want to talk about it again. Well, that's too bad, because you know what? It really is the smartest, best financial move that you can make when you're in your 20s, because having a budget or something that resembles a budget helps you control your money and put it to good use for your goals and your future. It is literally how you get ahead in life. There's an old saying that if you don't tell your money where to go, then your money tells you where it went. Having a budget and controlling your spending and knowing how you're spending is how you control your money, control your future, and set yourself up to be financially successful. Now, we've talked about budgets in the past, and if you need a reminder on how important a budget is or how they work, you can go back to listen to episode number 3, episode number 6, or 7, or 8. So we've talked about it quite a bit. We've also talked about a lot of different ways to budget, but really here is all that you need to know when you're in your 20s. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to use Excel spreadsheets. You don't really have to track much. It can be simple if you use the 50-30-20 budget. It's the simplest budget that I know of, and it will help you be golden in your finances. It goes like this. 50% of your income goes to your needs. That's like, your food, your clothing, your shelter, things that you actually need, your insurance bills, your cell phone. 30% goes to your wants. That is your going out, you're having fun, your vacations, it's your hobbies, because we have to enjoy life or life's not worth living. And then 20% goes towards your future, which includes things like saving and investing that we've talked about, and also paying down debts, because having a debt-free life is going to improve your future as well. So the 50-30-20 budget really should take care of things and keep them under control when you're in your 20s. All right. We talked about all 5 things. It doesn't have to be complicated. Even budgets, they don't have to be complicated. Keeping it simple and keeping all of your finances simple will help you stick to things and have a more abundant, financially successful life. If you've got questions about how you should budget, go back and check out those episodes. But if you've got questions about your money puzzle in general, make sure you email them over to us at questions@yourmoneypuzzle.com. And then make sure you subscribe and tune in next week when we're going to talk about the top financial moves that you should make when you are in your 30s. All right, that's it for this week. I hope you got some value out of the show. If you did, please do us a favor. Make sure that you share us with a friend who's been needing to add a little money sense to their lives. Go give us a rating on whatever app you use to listen to this podcast. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube, or just go check out our website. You can read the blog from this episode there as well. All right, that's it for this week. Until next week, be safe, have some fun, and do something to help improve and solve your money puzzle. Your future self will thank you for it.
Registered representative of and securities offered through Securities Management and Research, Inc., SM&R. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through BFC Planning, Inc. Edgen Insurance and Financial Services, Johnson Financial Services, SM&R, American National Family of Companies, and BFC Planning are independent entities. There are risks involved with investing which may include market fluctuation and possible loss of principal value. Particular investments may not be suitable for certain situations. Carefully consider the risks and possible consequences involved prior to making an investment decision. Our firm does not provide legal or tax advice. Be sure to consult with your own legal and tax advisors before taking any action that may have tax implications.